has looked like across central Illinois. Plus, several important races will be decided tonight. We check in with the candidates vying for the 13th congressional district seat.
And across the country, millions have already cast their ballots. How President Trump and former Vice President Biden are spending Election Day.
You're watching your local news leader. This is WCIA 3 News at 6.
Our vote could be the decisive vote. For all we know, it could be really close.
And that's why they wanted to come out. Voters have another hour until the polls close. Good evening. I'm Paul Cicchini.
And I'm Jennifer Roscoe. We are monitoring polling locations across central Illinois today. We have been looking at the voting at the Meadowbrook Community Church in Champaign. The best way to describe things out there would be slow and steady. About every time a voter walks out, another comes in, and it is actually down from yesterday. I believe our Courtney Bunting is now live from that polling place to give us a look at what's happening there. Is Courtney there? Okay, no, unfortunately she's not, but I'll keep going. As of yesterday, there were about 385 voters compared to today, where there have been about 300. Some first-time voters out there talking about the experience. They expected a long line, but didn't run into one. They called the process simple and says they encourage everyone they know to vote.
I think it's every American's responsibility to vote. I think it's every American citizen's responsibility to keep up with the election, to keep up with the candidates and where they stand on the issues. And I like to support that. And I think my friends should do that, too.
Now, talking about election judges and masks, they said some people reached out and said about 99% of people are wearing them. They do have masks available to give to people, but some are refusing. They can still vote, and their station is sanitized after that. Early and mail-in combined votes was 66,000. Today, there have been at least 18,000 voters voting in person. As for other counties across central Illinois, we checked in with them as well. Vermilion County Clerk's office says they've had lines going out the door and a steady stream of voters all day. Coles County Clerk says they've had voters out the door as well. Over there in Macon County, they don't have voter turnout numbers yet, but say they have been very busy. Some voters in one community were worried their votes wouldn't count today. A ballot machine at Leroy Christian Church wasn't working, and filled out ballots were being stacked on the side. The McLean County Clerk says sometimes ballot boxes jam. It happens at every election. She says there's nothing to worry about. The machine is now working, and all votes will be counted.
Now, we are following a couple of big races tonight in the state. One is the proposed graduated tax, which would allow lawmakers to set a tiered income tax rather than a flat tax across the board. Sometimes it's called a fair tax because it is based on your income. Another of the big races that we're following is the congressional race featuring the incumbent Republican Rodney Davis and his Democratic challenger Betsy Dirksen-Londrigan. One of the country's closest races for Congress is right here in central Illinois, and that is the race that we were just talking about, as Rodney Davis, of course, is hoping to hang on to that seat in a second straight contest with Betsy Dirksen-Londrigan. We'll hear more from Mark Maxwell on that race a little bit later tonight, but let's dive into this race a little bit, as both campaigns are obviously going to be closely watching these results. And both are conveying confidence. The only polls that we've seen show a very close race. And obviously, this is just going to come down to turnout, as we would expect. So will rural voters vote and show up for Rodney Davis? Typically, they are Republicans, and they are outnumbering college voters. College voters are typically a stronghold for Democrats. So which side is going to turn out tonight? Now, the balance of power is also up for grabs. Democrats do control the House, and Davis is digging in, of course, hoping he can hold on to his seat. So it's still time to cast your vote. We've talked about it a little bit, and there is a little bit less than an hour now before polls close. And, of course, Londrigan and Davis are encouraging everybody to get out and vote if they haven't cast an early ballot. Of course, every vote counts, and it could make all the difference tonight.
We are in the last hour of in-person voting. WCIA3's Karina Rubio was at a polling place when it opened about 12 hours ago and has this story.
As usual, the polls opened at 6 a.m., but much like the rest of 2020, many aspects of this election are unusual. The pandemic has led to a record-breaking number of people mailing in their ballots or slipping them into one of these drop boxes, but it hasn't stopped a good turnout of people across Champaign County from heading to the in-person polling places on Election Day. People filled in the bubbles on their ballots right when the doors opened at Brookins in Urbana. One first-time voter, originally from the Congo, was able to do just that thanks to recently getting citizenship.
Exterior form is no different on the country, and that one make me feel like I need to vote, because when you vote in the United States, like you fix the world.
Others have been here before, not missing their chance to be a part of the process.
Just as citizens, I think it's our right we owe it to our country to, even take 30 minutes out of our day to come in and do what we're supposed to do.
Many have called this election one of the most contentious in history. This voter says he's more than ready for results.
Honestly, it's metaphorically like a sigh of relief. I think that it's been overdue, and I'm really excited to put in my vote.
But others say this election is no different than years past.
A lot of people are making it seem that way, but I feel like every year is an important year and who's put in place to run our country.
And as far as outcomes, experts say it'll likely be a waiting game with all the mailed-in votes.
That won't matter in races that aren't very close. But for example, this congressional district, I think, is likely to be close enough that it'll be impossible to say who's won, given how many ballots are outstanding.
In Champaign County, Karina Rubio, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
The Champaign County clerk says if you still have a mail-in ballot, he suggests you slip it into one of the drop boxes before 7 tonight. That's also the time those boxes close. And be sure to join us tonight for election results. We'll be tracking them as they come in tonight. And not only can you watch us here all night at 9 and 10, but you can also download our news app for breaking results. Now, those early voting and mail-in ballot numbers are so high in part because we are in the middle of a pandemic. Here's a look at today's coronavirus numbers now. The positivity rate is up to 8.2%. More than 6,500 cases, new ones, were announced today. Nearly 3,600 people are hospitalized. The recovery rate, though, is at 97%. 68 more people have died, including 10 in central Illinois. That total is now almost 9,900.
Restrictions in Region 6 mean bars and restaurants can't have indoor dining, but not every owner is complying. Buford's and Sedoras has made it known it is staying open. WCIA 3's Andy Olson's live in the newsroom tonight. So, Andy, you spoke with the owner today. What is he telling you?
Well, Paul, they've not yet heard from public health. This was their first day open after being closed on Monday. Owner Jeff Buckler says he is expecting to hear from them eventually, though. He's not taking reservations for the weekend because he's not sure how long it will be before they might get shut down. And he knows handfuls of other business owners around the region who are doing the same thing. Buckler says staying open is about standing up for businesses' rights, but the biggest impact closing their inside space could have is on his employees.
And now here we go, getting back to normal, and then they pull the rug up on us again, and now you're back to square one. I mean, employees suffered. I don't know how many of the guys were behind on rent and power bills and car payments, and it's just, how do you expect a server to survive?
Buckler says he has 22 employees over 2 locations, but going outdoors and curbside only would mean he would have to lay off most of them. Health departments around the region have gotten calls about these bars and restaurants staying open. In Vermilion County, they say they are exploring options with law enforcement, and businesses going against it will face strong consequences. Live in the newsroom, Andy Olson, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
Certainly not a good situation either way. Andy, thanks. Springfield and Sangamon County decided today they're not going to follow the governor's mitigation orders and instead play by their own rules. There will be mitigations in place, but indoor dining will be allowed at 25% of a restaurant's capacity. There will also be an 11 p.m. curfew on restaurants and bars and a ban on indoor live music. Both the Sangamon County Sheriff and the Springfield Police Department say there will be more enforcement on the rules as well.
Macon County has already had a record-setting year for voting. Just how many people have turned out to cast their ballots today?
Also tonight, a city proposed a sewer fee increase where people are getting the chance to share their thoughts in person.
Okay, no excuse not to vote today. Because if you were going to blame it on the weather, I suppose you can't do that.
Many years you could make a case for snowing and it's raining
and storms,
severe weather some years.
Not today.
Not today. Look at the flag waving. A little wind out there. That could be the worst of it. It's on our Roofing Doug Inet, Carriage Crossing camera in Decatur as the flag waves there on this election night. Temperatures 55 degrees. When we come back, we're going to be talking more about, well, how long is this nice weather going to be sticking around? Are there any rain chances ahead? That's coming up.
Now, Central Illinois' most accurate forecast with meteorologist Kevin Lighty.
All right, so good evening to you here tonight. Quiet evening, great day out there. So if you liked what the weather was like outside today, you're going to love the rest of the week. It is going to be so nice. Even temperatures tonight are still very comfortable in the mid-50s here. Still holding on to 61 in Decatur and 61 in the capital city of Springfield. Temperatures tonight hovering in those 50s for much of this evening, and we're only talking about overnight lows dipping to the lower 40s by tomorrow morning. And then those highs are back to the mid and upper 60s and maybe even some areas nearing the 70-degree mark. I mean, and here's the thing, it's not just going to be for tomorrow. Pretty much the rest of the week, we've got opportunities for temperatures to be up there and getting close to that 70-degree mark. But the only thing is it's going to get a little windy. Our winds are going to crank 25, 30 miles per hour tomorrow and into the day on Thursday. So the winds are going to be around a little bit, but I think we'll take that when you can have temperatures like this. Look at these 70s, Friday, Saturday. Look at the 73s for Sunday and Monday. That's good, but I know you're looking at the last part of that graphic, which is this. And it's the big drop-off as we fall back down by the middle and end of next week. But I don't have any rain in the forecast, nothing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or any part of the upcoming weekend. It is dry all around until we get into next week. So 43 tonight, mostly clear. Still, that's pretty mild. We'll take that. 68 and mostly sunny and a warmer day as we head into your Wednesday. As always, when you're on the go, it's the WCA3 weather app that you can download for free to get the very latest when you're on the go. That thing is going to rock and roll for you with the latest on radar. And we've got our live feed on there. We've got our little videos and articles we talk about as well. So go ahead and download that. And it's got the 7-day on there, which I will also show to you right now. As you can see, look at this. 70s. This is just incredible here. Heading into the second week of November with 73 degrees on Sunday. Now, rain chances are going to come back for Monday and Tuesday of next week, but overall, that is some nice weather. A good stretch of weather there.
Not much to complain about at all.
You can't blame me for anything this go around.
Well, somebody find something.
We'll think of something. Thanks, Kevin.
Illini athletes got the day off so they could vote which teams took full advantage of the extra time.
Plus this.
You can't sit at home and say, well, I'm not going to vote.
A woman didn't let her age stop her from heading to the polls. Just how old she is and why she says it was so important for her to get there.
Live from your local news leader, Jennifer Roscoe, Paul Cicchini, Central Illinois' most accurate forecast with meteorologist Kevin Lighty and Brett Behrens on sports. You're watching WCIA 3 News at 6.
Some people won't let anything get in the way of going to the polls.
That includes a 102-year-old woman in Farmer City. She voted in person despite being in the extreme high-risk group for COVID-19. WCIA3's Demi Ramirez explains why she did it.
Helen Halcombe of Farmer City arrived at her polling site determined to cast her vote. She was born over a century ago during the pandemic, and now she's living through another one.
At first, I thought I'd do an absentee ballot, and then I thought, well, I'll just better get myself in gear and get out.
Her neighbor, Mary Jane Franklin, drove her. Franklin says Halcombe does not get out much, but voting was something she wanted to do.
I think it's our duty. And if you want people in office, you have to go and vote. You can't sit at home and say, well, I'm not going to vote.
Halcombe has been voting since the 1930s and says she can't quite remember her very first election.
I was trying to think of that this morning, and I don't remember. Of course, it'd be a long time ago.
But what she does remember is the reason she is voting.
Well, I have a lot of grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and I want a better future for them than it's looking right now.
2020 is a historic election for many reasons, with bringing out large numbers of voters, and Farmer City is no different. Halcombe wasn't the only one determined to vote. Nicholas Becker recently turned 19. This is his first time voting in a presidential election.
When we vote, we express the right of what we want to have done in our country, and I feel like no matter what your political views are, that you should have that right.
In Farmer City, I'm Demi Ramirez, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
And just think, when she was born, women didn't have the right to vote. We are celebrating 100 years of them being able to do that in 2020. Halcomb says if she can get out and vote, there is no excuse for others. And she can get around really well.
Pretty well.
Looking great.
No excuse.
Yeah, I love it. Great for her to do that.
And some players got out to vote today, too.
Yes, a lot of players were even voting early to make sure their vote counted for the Illini. All football, men's and women's basketball players registered to vote this year. It's something that they made sure they got out today. More on that next.
From the official television station of Illini Sports, this is WCIA 3 Sports and your Illini Nation.
Division I athletes across the country, including at Illinois, got the day off from competition and practice to ensure they could have plenty of time to vote. The move was approved by the NCAA in September to encourage athletes to vote and participate in civic engagement. Several Illini teams took initiative and are fully registered, including football, along with the men's and women's basketball teams. Lovie Smith fully supports his players having a voice.
Well, I think it's something that's long overdue, if you really think about it. I mean, we have holidays where we take days off for a lot of different things. What is more important than the presidential election? So it's something that should have been done a long time ago. I've talked an awful lot about the guys being involved and what's going on in our world and in our country. So here's a chance to really say, to make your voice be known.
Smith has long said he doesn't care which way his players vote. He just wants them to do so. For several guys on the football team, it's their first time voting. Senior linebacker Jake Hansen voted early, something he says is important to him.
Share our opinion on who we think needs to be the president, and I think that's important. The more people who we get to vote, the better understanding what the country really wants, right? So that's kind of what I would say it means to me.
The Illini will get back on the practice field tomorrow as they prep for Saturday's game against Minnesota. Running back Chase Brown will look to take another step. After a career day against Purdue, the redshirt sophomore rushed for a new individual high of 73 yards, leading the team. After transferring from Western Michigan, Brown says he's getting more comfortable with his role after making his first collegiate start.
I was ready. I was looking forward to it. I knew going into the game that I was going to get a lot more playing time, and I'm just looking forward to this coming week. And I just want to build on top of that and just really build up experience and confidence, because playing confident is just as important.
Illinois and Minnesota kickoff Saturday at 2:30 on Big Ten Network in a matchup of two 0-2 teams.
Somebody's got to win, right?
Somebody will have to pick up their first win of the season.
Well, it's 2020, so I don't know. Anything can happen.
They could tie. There's no ties in college
That'd
football.
be terrible if
right.
somehow that happened.
Thank you. Adults aren't the only ones who visited the polls this week. How some preschoolers made their voices heard.
Plus, fewer U of I students are voting this year because of the pandemic. How this could affect local races.
All right, let's take a look at the weekend forecast. Never too late to look ahead to the weekend, and especially when the weekend looks like that. 71 on Saturday, 73 on Sunday. Lots of sunshine. Look at those lows that are down into the low and mid 50s as well. That is a very good-looking weekend forecast. What do you think? Oh, can't get
November? What?
November, and we're going to have several days of that. The whole weekend. It's looking good.
All right, it was nice. Today, we're going to stick with our election theme, even
Okay.
in our bright spot. We've got this one from the Learn and Lead Academy. Oh, in Hoopston. They're teaching kids about the political process early.
Thumbs up.
Look at how excited they are. They had an election for the preschoolers this week, and precious, everybody giving a thumbs up. I don't know. It's going to be tough to beat.
No, looks like that voting machine is working pretty good. No issues there.
Yeah, not getting jammed.
Yeah,
All
not
right,
jammed.
we want to see what you are happy about. So please send us your pictures on Facebook. You can also email us. Let us know what is making you feel happy.
We have been monitoring voter turnout across central Illinois, even in preschools. My one county clerk says he was surprised by today's numbers. That story and more right after the break.
You're watching your local news leader. This is WCIA 3 News at 6:30.
People have been filtering in and out of polling places in Macon County all day.
This election set a record that area has never seen before. We now go to WCIA 3's Jennifer Jensen at a polling place in downtown Decatur. So, Jennifer, what has the turnout been like there?
Jennifer, the Macon County clerk told me that all polling locations in this area have had a steady flow of voters coming in and out all day. But like you said, Macon County, this election did hit a record for early votes this year. There was more than 17,000 early voters alone. Compare that to the primary election in 2018. There was a total of about 6,663 early and vote by mail ballots combined. So this year, that's nearly triple than what the last election was. The county clerk says something surprised him today, though. There has been a high rate of same-day registration for those who voted in person today.
Well, it's always important to vote because people sacrifice their life for this country to vote. And it doesn't matter if you vote for the candidates or not. You just want in the past in America, people literally sacrificed their rights and their lives to vote. So you should respect the past and the future.
The clerk says they did run into common issues with dozens of people today, though. Voters who requested a vote by mail ballot and instead chose to vote in person have had to bring their mail-in ballot to the polling place to surrender it so there isn't a double vote. But some have been showing up without it, so the only option is to fill out a provisional ballot. But other than that, things have been running pretty smoothly here on Election Day, according to the clerk. Now, later tonight, I will share the election results of a big race here for the Macon County State's Attorney. So stay with us for the results of that. Live in Decatur, I'm Jennifer Jensen, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so much. 2 years ago, students at the U of I had to wait in long lines to vote during the midterm. This is what it looked like earlier today on the U of I campus. Still busy out to the quad, but the Champaign County clerk says thousands were able to vote before today. And there are fewer students on campus this year. The clerk's office doesn't know exactly how turnout compares to years past, but they expect it to be close. Several police agencies say they have plans in place in case of protests. A joint statement from the Champaign, Urbana, and U of I police departments say they are not expecting civil unrest today, but they are prepared for any scenario. Some stores prepared as well, boarding up their windows yesterday in Champaign.
A man in Champaign who ran out of a courtroom to avoid arrest has been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. Clayton Yetz hurt a court security officer who tried to stop him. The judge said he found the case, quote, very troubling. That's because Yetz was on drug court probation for 3 felony convictions and doing well when he made what the judge called, quote, the most stupid decision of his life. The state troopers and hazmat teams responded to a rollover crash this morning. It happened at U.S. Route 67 in Edgewood Lane near Beardstown. Police say an unknown amount of flammable liquid spilled from a tanker that overturned. No word on what caused that crash.
Danville's mayor says it is time to fix the city's sewer system. If improvements are made, sewer bills will go up. WCIA 3's Jamie Mays is live in Danville. So, Jamie, the city council is expected to vote on this tonight.
Behind me. So what they decided to do was open up City Hall for public comment. People were able to walk up to this podium behind me. They were able to get on a Zoom meeting and then leave their comments and make their voices heard. Mayor Ricky Williams says the city has sewers that were built at the turn of the last century. Some infrastructure is crumbling because it's old. That's the reason he says changes need to be made to the city's sewer systems. Repairs will be paid for through Danville's sewer bills.
Under this new proposal, it would even out the rates so that everyone is paying the same amount per 1,000 gallons, regardless of how much water they use and regardless of whether they're residential, commercial, or industrial. You're welcome.
If approved, the city would start collecting money in April of next year. For residential properties, sewer bills would go up $1 every year after that for the next 4 years. Live in Danville, Jamie Mays, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
All right, Jamie, thank you so much. Some more details on this. Most people in Danville pay an average of $16 a month. That'll go up to about $29 if this passes. It would more than double the rate commercial users pay. It would approximately triple the rate industrial users are paying.
Polling locations across the country saw a lot of traffic today, the issues some voters ran into. Plus, it was a nice day to head to the polls. How long these sunny skies and higher temperatures are sticking around.
Now, Central Illinois' most accurate forecast with meteorologist Kevin Lighty.
All right, good evening to you. Election night here. Polls closing in about 22 minutes. Still got time, as long as you're in line there. And the weather is cooperating as it has all day long with no major weather issues. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at where our temperatures sit here at this hour. And hey, it's still 61 in Decatur at this hour. It is still 59 down in Mattoon and 58 in Danville. We're actually not forecasting a big drop off in our temperatures tonight, not as much as what we have been. We're going to be down into the low and mid 40s by the time we hit tomorrow morning. Then look at these highs. I mean, we're talking 70 degrees here in the first week of November. We'll take it. But it's not just going to be tomorrow. We're going to have this pretty much every single day this week into the upcoming weekend here. But how about a forecast of 71 in Charleston, Greenup, and 72 in Effingham? Now, the only thing over the next couple of days that you will notice will be an increase in the winds. Those winds are going back up. It seems like it's windy almost every day, right? But we're thinking 25, 30-mile-an-hour winds both tomorrow and on Thursday. But when it's 70 degrees out, those kind of winds are not as much of a big deal, are they? But look what happens here. We've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday into the upper 60s and low 70s, and then we drop off. So definitely take advantage of this incredible stretch. I mean, to get high temperatures near 70 degrees 5-6 days in a row in November, that's almost unheard of. Usually we get a couple here and there, but that many? Boy, this is some really nice weather here. And we can definitely take it because last week, we were in the 40s almost every day. It was raining and overcast. But look at that future track. Sunshine every single one of those days. So not only is it going to be warm on all of the days, that's going to be near 70, but it's also going to be dry. So that's some really good news there. Our next chance of rain doesn't show up until early next week. Okay, 43 for tonight. Mostly clear skies, obviously mild, a high of 68 degrees tomorrow on what is going to be a much warmer day across the area. As always, there is the Wcia3 weather app ready to rock and roll for you when you're on the go to be able to get the very latest in any kind of weather information that you need. You can download that for free. Just search for Wcia3 weather. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that 7-day forecast and show it to you again because I can't not talk about this enough when you've got weather like this. As I mentioned, dry through the weekend. Next week, we bring back the rain. And by the end of next week, unfortunately, back to reality.
No.
It is 2020 after all.
Well, you just never know what you're going to get. But the next few days, take advantage.
All right, thank you. It's been a busy day at the polls in central Illinois. You're going to hear from two experts who will give us an inside look at the election.
Plus, beyond the White House, lots of eyes on those Senate races with the balance of power up for grabs. We'll tell you which seats are in play.
The news continues here on WCIA3, your local news leader.
Voting is quickly wrapping up here in Illinois, and tonight we are joined by two people who are watching those totals closely. State Senators Andy Manar and Chapin Rose. Thank you both for being here tonight. All right, so you guys have the inside track. What are you watching first, you, Senator Manar?
So I'm watching for turnout, especially in the 13th Congressional District, starting here in Champaign County. That's going to be a big key to the end result in that race. Number two, how do the early votes compared to the in-person votes today, balancing that out? I think that's going to be a key to races from local level to Congress all the way up to the statewide referendum for the fair tax.
Okay, Senator Rose?
Yeah, so locally it really comes down to how many ballots are still outstanding at the end of the night that could come in the mail-in process, because obviously we've had unprecedented mail-in balloting. And on the presidential level, I'm looking at Pennsylvania. I think that's going to be a big indicator where this goes.
I mean, we've been seeing those voter totals are huge. Record turnout could be happening in this election. How do you think that fares for the president?
Well, generally, if there's record turnout, that's a referendum on the incumbent. But I think we've learned with presidential races, especially in the last several cycles, you can throw out the norms. But when you see turnout like it has been in Texas, with shattering records in Texas and in other states, I think we're going to look back on this day and learn a lot of things about the direction of the country. But, turnout generally tilts against the incumbent.
Definitely a historic night.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I will tell you that I talked to some folks in downstate Illinois, and, Shelby County, for example, Shelbyville was at 75% at 1:30 of registered voters. That's going to be good for the president. So I don't know. We'll see where this goes. It's going to be an interesting evening.
All right, and thank you. You guys are going to be sticking with us all night. We're going to have cut-ins tonight and also a 9 and 10 o'clock newscast, of course. They are going to be giving their inside look, a little inside baseball of what you will be seeing tonight in Election Night 2020.
And we'll take another look at the local issues we are following. But first, today's votes will soon be added to millions of early votes. How President Trump and former Vice President Biden made a final appeal to you.
This is WCIA3 News, your local news leader.
Polls have started to close in parts of the country, and counting is underway.
President Trump says he has a solid chance of winning after his campaign blitz over the past week. He held 23 rallies. The Trump campaign has a war room set up to monitor the results, and the president will be at the White House with about 400 guests as results come in. He says he hasn't written either an acceptance or concession speech. The Biden campaign spent Election Day dividing and conquering, making appearances in the key battleground states of Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, and North Carolina. Biden will be at the campaign headquarters tonight in Delaware, where he is expected to address supporters at a socially distanced event. His camp says they feel it's clear they're winning.
Even though more than 100 million Americans voted early this year, polling locations had long lines today. Some waited for hours, and a power outage caused others to vote in the dark. Officials in several swing states say voters received robocalls warning them to stay away from polls today and instead go out and vote tomorrow. Homeland Security officials say so far there's no evidence to suggest foreign adversaries have compromised any U.S. voting systems. Control of the White House isn't the only thing at stake today. 35 Senate seats are also up for grabs. Republicans occupy 23 of them. Democrats seized control of the House 2 years ago, gaining 41 seats. It gave them a 235 to 199 majority. Polls suggest they are likely to increase that advantage tonight. Democrats need a net gain of 4 seats to take control of the Senate, or 3 seats if Joe Biden wins the presidency.
We're going to take a look at today's top stories after this.
This is WCIA 3 News, your local news leader.
Time to take a look at our top local stories of the day. Of course, it's the election. We are monitoring polling locations across central Illinois today. Starting in Champaign County, voting has been slow and steady. It's actually down from yesterday. Early and mail-in combined was 66,000 today. There have been at least 18,000 voters. Now in Macon County, it has been a record-setting year for voting. The county clerk says he was surprised by the high rate of same-day registration for those who voted in person today.
2 of the big races on the ballot include a graduated tax, which would allow lawmakers to set different tax rates rather than a flat tax for everyone. Another is the congressional race between Republican Congressman Rodney Davis and Democrat Betsy Dirksen Londrigan.
All right, we're going to take a final look at our beautiful forecast. That's next.
The polls are getting ready to close, but the night is far from over.
You are going to join us back here, right, at WCIA 3 for election results. We're going to be tracking them as they come in. And, of course, we'll have full election coverage coming up tonight at 9 and 10.
Right.
All right, 7-day forecast, lots of sunshine carrying through all the way through the end of the week and the weekend there as well. And as I mentioned at 5, I just kept the flag on Wednesday because they're still going to be counting votes on Wednesday and, maybe Thursday.
Friday,
Yeah,
so we don't know. We're not sure.
There you go.
All right. Lots of votes that need to be counted.
See you at 9 and 10.